Well, if you're trying to catch the bottom on the silver market, it was only a few months ago, and this is a multi-year cycle. So is it too late? No, not even close.
Hi, my name is Georgia Tucker with Cambridge House. Today we are talking all things silver. I have David Morgan on the show, publisher of themorganreport.com, longtime silver bug and financial commentator. We also have the CEO and founder of Endeavour Silver, Bradford Cooke. Endeavour are a mid-tier producer in Mexico, and their stock is doing fantastic, so definitely worth taking a look. Bradford is a geo with over 40 years experience in the mining sector. If you like this video, and I hope you do, please hit like and subscribe to our channel. You can hear more from Cambridge House by following us at Cambridge on Twitter, and if you click the link in the pinned comment below, you can receive our weekly newsletter. Thank you and enjoy. David and Bradford, such a pleasure to have you both chatting with me today about silver. Of course, an extremely timely discussion. So let's kick it off right away. Silver has been very hot. Of course, we just saw 24 USD silver. That's up over $5.50 an ounce from this time last year. David, where does silver go from here?
Well, higher, and it's a bull market. So the bull is going to try to shake off as many investors as possible on the way to the ultimate top, but definitely in a bull market.
And Brad, what do you think? Where is silver headed next?
Well, how do I trump David's comments? Obviously, I'm also very bullish on silver. I'm long silver through my own company, and I'm also a bull. I guess I would just caution people that this is a cycle. It's going to be a great cycle. It's the third leg of a typical three-leg move, a multi-generational move, and cycles move in steps. So 3 steps forward, 1 step back. When you get to the third leg, sometimes it's 10 steps forward, 1 step back. So watch it.
A little bit of caution there. So, of course, this psychological threshold of $20, which we've just surpassed, what do you think is going to be the next benchmark? David, let's start with you.
Well, it's really hard to say. I mean, technically, 26 is sort of the line that is absolutely important. It was support after silver peaked at around $50 in early May 2011. It held 26 3 times. On the 4th time it went through, I put out to all of my paid members, my premium accounts, that we're going to break through 26. Believe me, I got some hedge fund managers that called me up and thanked me profusely because they hedged their positions. And of course, from that point till now, we've been in a downtrend, sideways, cautionary market. A lot of people gave up on silver, and then all of a sudden people realize again how quickly it can move. I mean, I have another interview coming up, and I told the host I really didn't want to talk about silver till it broke the 1950 level intraday on the continuous contract. And he said, okay, fine. And here it is about 2 weeks later, and we're pushing toward 24. So again, I'll parrot what Brad said. I think you got to be cautious, but there is an adage that many have heard that follow me, and that is 90% of the move comes in the last 10% of the time. We are in the last 10% of the time, and is it going to be 90% of the move or not remains to be determined. But usually the third leg up is the longest in price and not necessarily longest in duration. In fact, it's usually fairly short in duration. So if the market started in 2003, we're in 2020, that's 17 years. Let's say we've got another 3 years of this market. Then, you could look at that. If you say 17 years and you take 10% of that, that's 1.7 years. So it could be as short as a year and a half, and that may be it. Is it or isn't it? The market knows more than me always, and I always defer to the market itself. The market is very strong right now. Silver's outperforming gold at about a 3-to-1 ratio, which is the ratio I look for. In other words, when gold's up 1%, silver's up 3%. When gold's up 2%, silver's up 6%. And that's only come, Georgia and Brad, as late. So it's just early on. You're not going to miss the move if you get in here. You might get shaken out if you're in leverage positions. But if you own it, you're going to be able to hold on to it.
Excellent. And back to that threshold question, Brad, what do you think? Is 26 the next psychological benchmark, or where do you place that?
Well, I thought it was 21, and we said goodbye to that a couple days ago. I'm thinking it's kind of this range right now, 24, 25. Again, the concept of 2, 3, 4 steps forward, 1 step backwards I am expecting a pause here soon. I just don't know when. And it could be a very quick pause.
Let's circle back to ratios. David, I know you've spoken about the gold to silver ratio a lot at our conference. Historically, we've seen between 80 to 60 to 1, at one point around 125 to 1, and we've seen the gap close significantly as of late. Does the ratio hold much weight?
Well, there's all kinds of controversy about it, and there are a lot of even silver bulls, but primarily neutral silver or more gold favorable people. And then, of course, the general public that says it means nothing. It does. First, it means how much silver it takes to buy an ounce of gold. So that's a fact. But no, there's a lot to be said about the ratio. Anytime it's been above 100 to 1, it's portended a very big problem in the financial system at large. And it's also basically set off some rather spectacular moves in the silver market. And since this is an all-time high over 5,000 years, it suggests that it's going to be an all-time high, which goes along with what I said about 90% of the move in the last 10% of the time. I really think we'll take out the $50 nominal level. Remember, $50 in 1980 is somewhere around 150 in today's dollars using the government's inflationary statistics. So I think we have a long ways to go. I don't want to be overly bullish. I want to caution people. But it just amazes me that, how lackluster my work was appreciated during these 6-7 years where it was time to accumulate, which some of the smart money did. And now that we're going toward 25, a lot of people are very anxious to get in. But once it hits 30, there'll be more people anxious to get in. And then it'll, like any market, ebb and flow and it'll go up and down. But again, this time I think is the big one. I think this is going to be especially with gold leading away. Once you hit that $3,000 mark the Bank of America keeps talking about, a lot of people will wake up at that point and look at silver at maybe, 30 at the time. I don't know. I'm just giving you the idea. 30 looks awfully cheap to 3,000. So you see more new buyers to silver that never even thought about purchasing to come into the market.
And where do you speculate the ratio could be by the end of the year?
By the end of the year? That's too tough. I'll pass on that, but I'll answer it in a different way. During the peak in May, where we saw $50 silver in 2011, the ratio dropped to 35 to 1. Since I expect silver to outperform gold even more than that on this last leg, I would say you might see 20 to 1. You could see the classic ratio 15 to 1. In an extreme case, you might even see 10 to 1. But I absolutely believe silver will outperform again this time. And I do believe it'll be below 40 to 1. But even 40 to 1 would be twice as effective as a gold purchase right now. If people really want to buy gold at $1,000 an ounce, all they have to do is buy silver. And when they buy silver and they want gold, then when the ratio gets that 40 to 1, swap it into gold, and now you've purchased your gold at $1,000 an ounce.
Brad, any comments from you about the gold to silver ratio?
Yeah, I think the ratio is a great indicator of where you are in the cycle. And that run to 125 briefly during the March panic, I don't know how many people decided that was a time to load up on silver, but my God, what a generational indication.
David and Brad, question for you both. In a bull market, silver has historically outperformed gold. Why does this happen, and do you think it will happen again? Let's start with you, David.
Silver is a smaller market, so it doesn't take much buying. So it doesn't take much new input to drive it much higher. And this is what will happen, especially with gold being in the headlines. It will drive people to look at the silver market, and a lot of them that can't afford gold will move into silver.
And Brad, what do you think?
Well, because over the last 100 years, silver has evolved into much more of a strategic industrial metal, and the vast majority of silver production is taken off market in manufactured goods every year. It doesn't leave any good, good delivery silver available for investors when they reawaken to the value of silver as a monetary investment. So every major cycle in silver has been driven by investors, and every down cycle has been basically investors leaving the sector. And so we're seeing the investor coming back to silver as a monetary metal, and there's no metal for them. It's exactly what David said. It's a tiny market. All of the silver is being consumed. And when investors want, real coins, real bars, even the ETFs have to buy real silver, then there's no silver for them. So the price has to go up.
David, Sprott Silver just announced they intend to purchase a staggering $1.5 billion of physical silver What does this mean to your average investor?
Well, it means you're going to have a lot of support. It's going to be like putting a put on a stock. You're going to have a floor basically for the silver market. That's my view. Time will tell if that's correct analysis or not, but it certainly portends good things for silver bulls.
And I mean, the future feels very uncertain for many investors. The pandemic, there's some social unrest in the US, upcoming election, volatile economy, of course. How should viewers be protecting their wealth?
Well, silver and gold have been proven to be assets that are not a liability. So they're the only real financial or monetary assets that don't have a counterparty risk. Everything else in the market is basically on leverage. All real estate usually has a mortgage behind it. Some's free and clear, but most isn't. Same thing with an automobile loan. So anything that's in a leveraged system where the credit cycle is coming to an end is in jeopardy. And we're seeing that very much across the board. So you're going to see a run to something that can be trusted, and the metals have been trusted for over 5,000 years. So the run to trust, to safety, to peace of mind has just begun. And as it accelerates, there'll be more and more participants. And so I think we're in a cycle that's going to, as I said earlier in another interview, go into the history record books on a financial washout that happens at the end of all the fiat cycles. We're in a situation that's really going to move the metals as far as I'm concerned.
But silver has not generally been thought of as a safe haven, at least in the mainstream, due to its volatility. Has or will this change?
Well, it has historically. It hasn't been since the brainwashing of the 1873 crime, which means that they demonetized silver and bankers went to gold only, a monometallic standard. But really, a bimetallic standard throughout history has been the best for everyone. And silver's been money more often, more places, and traded more for goods and services than gold by far. But yet the powers that be have re-educated the public to believe it's merely an industrial metal. But actually, that's an advantage, as Brad pointed out. So once the idea that silver's a safe haven, and maybe the ultimate safe haven for the little investor, I think things will change rapidly in that psychology. But what does that mean in the aggregate? It means maybe 3, 4, 5% of the population of the planet will realize that. But since we only have 0.02% of the entire financial system in the silver market right now, to take it to 0.05% is meaningful. In other words, a doubling of the amount of people that see silver for what it is, both a monetary metal and an industrial, strategic, unbelievably essential, must-have metal in modern times and technology. So it's got two things going for it. And once the monetary demand takes it away from the industrial side, they'll come in and buy it at any price, because without silver, they are out of business.
Brad, let's hand it over to you for a moment. Your stock at Endeavour has doubled this last month, so congratulations for that. What would you say to new investors that felt like they may have missed the boat? It's a little too late to invest in Endeavour.
Well, if you're trying to catch the bottom on the silver market, it was only a few months ago, and this is a multi-year cycle. So is it too late? No, not even close. It's specific to our company, and one of the catalysts for the move in the last month was our announcement of the latest economics on our next development project, our next mine called Terronera in Mexico. Once Terronera is up and running, it will actually be our largest and lowest cost mine, and the economics are extremely robust at much lower prices than today. So I think that was a real help to the stock.
Stepping away from silver for just a moment, I've heard in interviews recently that you're anticipating the decline of purchasing power of USD. So what does the future of currency look like in the US?
Sad. I mean, if you look at the Federal Reserve Board's own data, they'll tell you that the $1913 worth 100 cents is worth about $2 right now. So it's lost 98% of its value in a little over 100 years. And their mandate is for a stable monetary system. Well, if it's a stable monetary system, $1 in 1913 would be $1 today, and it's not. So that's proof positive that exactly how poorly they've held to their mandate. So how much is left of that 2 cents? I don't know. Is it going to blow away in the next week or two? Probably not. Is it going to absolute zero? No. No, there'll be a new system. It'll be a new Bretton Woods of some type. I'm just using that term because most people that listen to this interview understand what Bretton Woods is. But there'll be some type of convention, monetary crisis, whatever. And the nation states convene. They come up with a new digital currency by sovereign states, perhaps, or whatever. But there will be a change in the monetary system. That's inevitable.
Crypto, perhaps?
Most likely it'll be digital based. That's what we've heard from Mark Carney when he was president of the Bank of England. He no longer is, but he spoke at the UN, he spoke at Davos, and he also spoke at Jackson, Wyoming. In all three places, he indicated they wanted an unbacked digital currency controlled by the banks only, using modern money theory. In other words, they can print till kingdom come and it's not going to hurt anything, which of course is ludicrous. But that's what they're shooting for, according to him, and he carries a lot of weight in the elite financial circles.
Interesting. Well, thank you for obliging me there. Let's talk about Endeavour a little bit more specifically. And David, I will let you take over with some questions, things investors should be asking when they do their due diligence on a silver company.
Okay, well, Brad, we've been through this a few times, so you already know the format before I ask the questions, but I always start with kind of the basics because there's always new people, especially now. I mean, people probably say, oh my goodness, silver, and I want a silver mine. And, you know, I get all kinds of people. I mean, there's the people that, oh, I only want the physical. And I say to those people that only want the physical silver, you know, and I teach buy the physical first before you go into the mining companies. But where do you get the silver without a silver mine, for crying out loud? You know, it's different. It's like the analogy of a golden goose. You know, do you want to buy that one golden egg, or do you want to buy the goose that lays the golden egg? That's where you're looking in the correct mining companies. You're looking at that goose that lays a golden egg or a silver egg again and again and again. So having said all that, let's just start at the beginning. Brad, let me have a little bit about your background and your management team.
Absolutely, David, and thanks for the opportunity. I'm a geologist. I've been in the mining business over 40 years. My team's been together largely since the 2007, 8, 9 period. Endeavour today is considered to be a mid-tier silver and gold producer. That's all we produce. We don't have any base metal production. We own and operate 3 high-grade underground silver gold mines in Mexico. They're all geologically very similar. And thanks to our exploration team, we have one of the best organic growth profiles in the business, with not one but 2 new discoveries in historic districts in Mexico that we propose to build over the next 3 to 4 years to significantly grow our production and reduce our costs. I'd already mentioned earlier that our next project, the Terronera mine in Jalisco State, Mexico, we published now the final pre-feasibility study on it with fantastic returns at much lower metal prices. I think it was $138 million net present value, discounted at 5% after tax, with a 30% internal rate of return after tax, barely a 2-year payback. So it's a very attractive mine, and that was, I believe, done at around $16 silver and $1,600 gold, plus or minus. So in the far distant past in terms of the metal prices. That's what's coming up for Endeavour next. We hope to break ground on that project this year, even though we're going to a full feasibility study, which will take almost a year and about $1.5 million. Because we're largely permitted, for instance, the mine and the plant sites are both permitted. If we had the funding, then we would go ahead and break ground on the long lead items. So a very exciting time for Endeavour, basically developing a new crop of mines to carry us through the next decade or 2.
Great. Let me just comment real briefly that this is my favorite model. People, I like a producer that has a lot of upside exploration potential. And of course, Endeavour fits that, as Brad just told you what the projects are like. I'm going to go right to the finance side. So I want to know the financial side. How strong is the treasury? How much does management own? Do you have institutional support? And what's the share structure look like?
So there's about 150 million shares out. We're trading at, well, north of $5 today, US. And so that puts us into about $750 million market cap. Cash at the end of March was 15, but it's almost double that at the end of June. And working cap is up in the kind of high 20s at the end of June. That'll be up higher, obviously, by the end of March. Sorry, working cap was 27. At the end of June, we haven't published that yet, but it'll be a significant increase over the first quarter. So we're financially strong. We don't have any long-term debt, so a very strong balance sheet. And because of our exposure only to gold and silver, we have the best leverage in the business. The 5-year beta of our stock price to the silver price is almost 1.7, which is a sector leading for the entire silver space.
Very good. Institutional support and management. What's management own?
We estimate about 30% of the shares are held institutionally, 70% retail. Management's about 4%, but that includes our options. So it doesn't sound like a big number, but it's my largest single holding. I guess going forward, we're looking at a combination of debt and equity to build out these mines. We don't have any debt at this time, so that would probably be the next thing for us, is to look at a debt tranche for Terronera.
Very good. So Mexico, I mean, I want the good, the bad, and the ugly, meaning, you know, why Mexico, I know, and you know, but I want the audience to know why Mexico. And then also I get a lot of questions about, well, is it safe? And, you know, a well-known newsletter writer talked about Mexico as being a potential failed state and all this stuff. You've been there a long time. I've been there many times. I actually have a dwelling there. Condo, and so I am pretty pro Mexico, but I want you to alleviate some of the fear. And believe me, people, this is more or less a brave new world. There's not any certainty in life at all. But can you go through why Mexico and what you would respond to these naysayers about Mexico?
Well, we were attracted to Mexico in 2003 because it's close to home. You can get there in half a day, direct flights. It's has been politically stable, has a democratic system. It's not a strongman empire. And thanks to NAFTA, actually, 1994 and onwards, we saw literally the creation of a middle class, all the related middle class infrastructure, education, social services, health services. So Mexico really is a part of North America. And it's got a fiscal regime that works. I have to say that fiscal regime has gotten more expensive for us miners in the last 8 years, but it's pretty much on par with the rest of Latin America in terms of the total tax load. So those are all the pros. The cons, obviously, more recently, we've had the emergence of far-left socialist in power, López Obrador, and so he's going to have to pay for his social programs somehow, and this is in the middle of a COVID pandemic. We don't know how this is going to play out in Mexico. We've seen a sharp increase in security concerns. Thankfully, in only specific corners of Mexico, it's not widespread. And, you know, that was the case even in 2003. And we knew there was security hotspots when we went to Mexico, but they weren't anywhere close to our mines. But think about it. Mining as an industry has largely most of their employees, most of their activities in remote rural areas, far from gang activity, far from government interference. And so we just go about our business. It's very important. We have a social license with our local people in every place that we work. And so we've made that core to our business plans since we arrived in Mexico, to build relationships locally. And that's really your first line of defense, not only against security problems and narco gangs, but your first line of defense against meddling governments.
Very good. Well, Brad, we've actually covered it. I like to keep it simple. We did the people, the project, and the financing, and also the question I get the most, which you did a great job on answering, you know, honestly, the good and the bad. So is there anything that we haven't talked about that you want our viewers or listeners to understand before we close out?
Well, I think specifically Endeavour's fallen into the trap of, in the last 2 years, being considered a high-cost producer. And that was because we were still trying to mine the low-grade leftovers of our original discoveries, David, back in 04, 05, 06. The Guanaceví and Bolañitos discoveries, we lived off of for now 15 years, 16 years. And the plan was to have a seamless transition out of those old ore bodies, close those old mines, and replace them with new mines at the same sites. And we have discoveries at both Guanaceví and Bolañitos that were in the permitting pipeline 2-3 years ago, but with delayed permitting, we forced ourselves to live off these low-grade leftovers of the original ore bodies at lower and lower silver prices, and it was really painful. We started losing money. So that's what happened. Looking forward, I think we're going to be the beneficiary. Our shareholders are going to be the beneficiary of a double whammy. Not only are we now looking at sharply rising metal prices, but our costs are coming tumbling down. Guanaceví turned the corner from being our worst performer last year, our most expensive mine, to being in the black in the first quarter. And that was a 4-quarter turnaround. And we're now living off of new discoveries at Guanaceví that have extended the mine life for several years at much higher grades and much lower costs. And that process is underway at Bolañitos now. So I just wanted to point out that we may have been briefly a high cost producer, but we're definitely headed to the lowest quartile. And, you know, Terronera single-handedly doubles our production and halves our costs. So once we get the new mines up and running, it's even better.
Closing question for you both then, just nice and simple. I know we've gone over it plenty throughout the interview, but if you could just reiterate in the simplest way you can, why silver? David, let's start with you.
It's the best monetary metal of all recorded history. It's the most undervalued asset of any asset class in the entire planet. It's affordable for everyone, and it's a very small market. It means it's extremely rare. It's very scarce. So you're buying something that's extremely rare and scarce, but one of the cheapest prices it's ever held on an inflation-adjusted basis with nothing but upside, more or less. Will it correct? Of course it will. Will it pause and go up and down and scare people out of the market? Yes, it will. But for those that have the wherewithal to put some, not all of their funds into a precious metal, I would favor silver over gold again.
Excellent. And Bradford, you've dedicated your career to the metal. Why silver?
I'd like to give you 3 reasons to own silver in the portfolio. David touched on the first one, which is that silver is truly money. It was the last metal used in common currency, the silver dollar, the Mexican peso, the Chinese currency, the yuan. I think that it's come back with a bang. The appreciation of the investor for silver as a monetary metal is coming back with a bang, and it's going to impact the silver price. Number 2, in the last 100 years, silver has evolved as an industrial metal, and the vast majority of new mined silver every year disappears into manufactured goods, never to be seen again, because it's too hard to recycle. There's 1 ounce of silver that goes into a conventional internal combustion engine car for the electronic digital circuitry. It's not enough silver to scrap a car and recover the silver. So it just disappears. It leaves the world, so to speak. And yet the uses of silver continue to grow every year. Electronic offtake grows 2-3% every year. We've seen in the last 10 years the emergence of solar photovoltaic cells. In fact, that leads me to my 3rd reason to own silver. Silver is a green metal. You can't have solar power without silver. You can't actually have an electric car without silver, even though there's far more copper or lithium or cobalt in an electric car compared to silver. Silver is used on all the electronic contacts, and there's twice as many electronic contacts in an electric car as there is in an internal combustion car. Last year, 55 million ounces was consumed by the automotive industry. Who knew that? And if we believe any of the 10-year forecasts for the growth of the electric vehicle, that number will triple. Where is that metal going to come from? So 3 really good reasons to own silver. Silver as a monetary metal, silver as an industrial metal, silver as a green metal.
Oh, love it. Boiled down so nicely. I feel very optimistic. Well, thank you guys both so much for chatting with us. It's a very exciting time for silver. David, where can viewers follow along with you, hear more from you?
Just go to my main landing page, themorganreport.com. I suggest you pull down the blog tab and read the blog or listen to the interviews that are posted on the blog. And then the navigating bar at the top of the blog page has icons for our Twitter feed, our LinkedIn, our Facebook, and our YouTube channel. So if you want to follow any of those, they're on the blog page at the top bar.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And Bradford, where can viewers learn more from Endeavour?
Well, the fastest and easiest is our website, edrsilver.com.
Excellent. And can you share those ticker symbols with us?
So ticker symbol in Canada is EDR
Okay.
on the Toronto Stock Exchange. And
On
in
the
the
big board?
US, we're on the big board Toronto. In the US, we're on the big board New York, and the symbol is EXK.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Well, exciting for Endeavour. Look forward to seeing what the rest of summer brings. And I thank you both so much.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching my interview with David Morgan and Bradford Cooke of Endeavour Silver. Please hit like and subscribe to our channel. For more from Cambridge House, you can follow us at Cambridge on Twitter. And if you click the link in the pinned comment below, you can receive our weekly newsletter.